time for the fuselage. Here in front of me I have the things that we need to start making the fuselage sides. I've got the sides themselves. I've got some triangular balsa sticks, and I've got the plywood doubler. Now the most difficult thing about making the sides is to avoid making two of the same. And trust me, I've done it. Now the first thing we have to do when building a pure glider like I am going to do is to shorten the sides. There's a mark, a laser cut mark here down the fuselage side, and this is where we're going to have to cut to shorten it. If we were going to have a motor, it would come here, but since we're not, we're going to take this part off. In order to cut this, we find that the laser, when marking, has made a slight cut down into the balsa, so we can line it up with a good knife and a steel ruler, and then just cut it like this. So now the side is the length it should be. When we make up the side, this triangular balsa stick is going to have to be glued to the bottom of the fuselage, but there's absolutely no way that I can bend this stick to fit. So what we do is we use a razor saw like this, and we make saw curves about a centimeter apart, the whole length of the of this balsa. And when we do that, it will become possible to bend the triangular piece along the fuselage side. We have to be careful to cut about 3/4 of the way through and no more. If we cut all the way through, it will just fall apart, which is not what we want. There. Now it is possible to bend, the piece of balsa. I was going to say without breaking it, but bending is much easier. Now I'll have to just see to it that this goes together right. Now I have started gluing the making up the sides, and the best way to avoid doing two of the same is to lay the sides down on the bench and have the backs next to each other. Also, we're going to need this little mark here, so that might as well stick up. The first thing you glue down is the doubler, the plywood doubler. It glues down here, and you have to see to it that the holes are aligned. And again, because I like wood glue, I'm just going to use wood glue. to prevent it from sliding around, I'm going to put a couple of pins in. I'm aligning the holes and the outside of the fuselage, and then I'm going to weigh this down with some steel blocks. Now this should be very nice when it's dried. Now I'm going to glue the triangular balsa to the side. I've already done this side here, and I've sanded the balsa just a little bit to get rid of sort of the fuzz that came. I've also cut this end here so that it fits with this line here. The T9 will have to lie here, and so I can't overlap here. It has to lie up to the line but not over it. So the best way to do this is just to put some glue down on this triangular balsa and then use a lot of pins to hold it. Now we really don't need a lot of glue, but putting enough down and then rubbing it in so that it goes in between helps to make this even sturdier when it dries. So like this, and now I place it so that it is exactly along the line of the fuse, and pin it quite extensively. Hold it onto the edge and put in a pin. It's surprising how easy it is now to manipulate the balsa and form it along the edge of the fuse after I've made these saw curves. And this one goes all along the side from the end to the front, and when this is dry I will cut the overhang. Just a little bit more. There. Okay, now on the top side we have another piece of triangular balsa that goes like this. It butts up against the plywood, runs along the top edge of the fuse, and I have to cut it here so that T9 can fit on the end. Perfect. So now just a little glue. not as much as on the other one, because here there are no saw curves to fill. Place it down and use pins to hold it. There we are. Now this is going to wait until tomorrow, because I want this to be completely dry before I do anything else. Okay, here are both the fuselage sides ready, dry and off the building board. And now we have to find all the formers that come inside. Here's F4. It is situated somewhere around there. F8 is here in front. F5 is here for the servo. F10 comes here, I think, for the tow hook. F2 is around there, F1 here, and F3. So all the formers are ready. We have to take a wedge out of the back end of the fuselage where they meet together, and to do that the instructions tell us to take it down to 2.5. It begins around here according to the plan. I marked where the wedge is supposed to begin, and the instructions tell us to take it down to about 2.4 millimeters at the back. Now, how do we know when we reach 2.5 millimeters? Well, the offcuts from the tail fin actually, are made of 2.5 millimeter. So we just place that there, and then put a line on the end of the triangular pieces. Now we can use the balsa plane and the sandpaper to take it down. The next step is to glue the formers in and join the fuselage sides to it. But I want to make a slight alteration. I have this idea of practicing aero towing with this little glider, and to do that you have to have a tow hook at the very front here. What I did was I made up this thing here. It's a 9mm tube, about 2 centimeters long. I drilled a 4mm hole through it, and I pushed a 4mm tube through that. I silver soldered this together, and then removed the part of the 4mm tube that is inside the 9mm. Through this I'm going to pass a 3mm tube soldered onto some wire, and it's going to just slide in. You put the loop of the tow cable in there, close it, and the loop is trapped. Then you tow, and then you pull this out again, and the tow cable gets free. Very simple, very easy to make, and I'm going to fit it here. in the front, in the middle of former F1. Now to do that, it will be lying on former F8 with the short end of the tube facing down, and I have to make a hole in F1 for the tube here, the 4mm tube. I'm going to do this, and I'll show you how it comes out. Here we have the front of the glider. This is the nose. Here is F1. The hatch will be here on top, and here underneath is the tow hook. It comes back through F1 and is nestled against F8 and F1, glued in place securely. Then when flying takes place, aero towing, this just goes through here, traps the tow line, and when I want to release, I just pull it out like this, and the tow line is loose. Now we are going to start putting the fuselage sides together, and the instructions tell us to glue in F3 here in its place, and it's supposed to be perpendicular to the side. So this is the only former that is completely perpendicular. The only thing we have to be aware of is that F3 has a hole for a steering cable, and F4 as well. Both F3 and F4 have this hole, so it's very good practice to have these two along the same side. It's the only thing we have to look out for. Anyway, let's start by gluing in F3. The other side is glued on, and we have to see to it that it too is at 90 degrees to the former. I'm now going to glue in former F4, and in order to do that I've taken some offcuts or scraps from the model and pinned them here down on the drawing, and I've placed former F3 here exactly on F3 position, and now I can slide F4 in and glue it in, of course remembering where to have this hole. Now I'm going to carry on putting in formers off camera, and I'll show you how I progress in the next episode.